last week, headed out on a three-game road stretch this week. Obviously, it begins in Orem, Utah, followed up by Seattle. It's going to, recap a little bit of last week as how we extended it to, I think it's 21 straight against WAC opponents.
Yeah, we're coming off a game where we didn't play our best. Disappointed with our performance on Saturday, especially after watching the video over the weekend. We played much better against Chicago State on Thursday, and after Friday's really good day of preparation, the guys were locked in mentally and physically. We had a great day. The coaches did a fantastic job of preparing a game plan on the quick turnaround, and then we started off fairly well, but our defense wasn't revved up, and we just never could get enough possessions in a row to take a commanding lead. And, credit to Coach Donlin and their staff for sticking around and continuing to fight and scratch and claw. And then, that's what you want when you're on the road and you're down the whole game, is stick around and find a way to get yourself in position to maybe steal one. And that's what they did. And in the end, we just made some poor decisions, and I made a couple poor decisions as well, and we got to fix it going forward.
Jabari was named Player of the Week, Coach. What have you seen from him this year compared to last year, and where do you feel like he can go the next couple of years?
I think everyone close to the program, especially upstairs, knows how I feel about Jabari. I've been his biggest fan since he's arrived. I love kids that play hard all the time and play with emotion, and he has that in spades. I mean, he gives it everything he's got, and he's a work in progress still, but I'd rather have that rather than someone that doesn't have a motor and doesn't have energy, and you're trying to get him to play at top speed all the time. With Jabari, it was more of, okay, slow down a little bit. It isn't going anywhere. And he wanted to be the best player in the league his first day on campus, and he needed to go through this progression that he's going through. And probably the thing that sticks out the most is just the extra time he puts in. I mean, he has lived in the gym since last season ended. He elected to stay here all summer when other guys went home for the first summer session, and his work's paying off for him. The thing that probably I notice again is his tempo is slowed down on offense. Like playing basketball is Jekyll and Hyde. On one side of the court, you want to have a certain mentality and a certain tempo, and then on the other side, you need to be a little more revved up and a little more wild and flying around. But you don't want that on offense, and so you kind of got to go back and forth with that as a team. And so Jabari on the defensive end and the rebounding department plays with his hair on fire. On the other end, he kind of played that way too, and now he's slowed down. And I thought, especially early against Kansas City, his pace was tremendous. He's getting more and more comfortable. You can't teach experience, and he's got more games under his belt. And I think this will just motivate him more to continue to work at his game. And, sky's the limit for him. I think he can have an excellent college career and set himself up for bigger things going forward.
I guess with Evan, didn't see a whole lot of it from him last year, just the ability to the distribution and just making plays for other people. Is that something that he's developed in the last year or so, or is that something that you've needed from him out of necessity, just less scoring and more of just being a playmaker?
He needs to be a point guard. That's a position that he plays, and he's very similar to what AJ was when we arrived, a scorer. I knew AJ in high school, and he was a scorer. He really didn't have a point guard mentality. And slowly but surely over time, he started to understand his position on the team and to realize that, he didn't need to be the leading scorer. He needed to be the leader and get guys positioned correctly and start the defense and certainly score when needed, but not have that mentality that every time down the court he needed to make a play for himself. And now Evan's going through the same progression, and it's a daily deal that we all work with him on. But at the same time, I love when every position can score on the court. It's not as if I don't want him to score, but I don't want him to think score every time he gets the ball. I want him to be more concerned about positioning players on the court, making sure we're in the right scheme, and then thinking he can get by most defenders at a pretty good rate, but when he gets in that paint, he's got to think distribute and break that defense down and create for others. And he didn't do as good a job of it last game, but he's certainly come a long way. And what I've loved the most about him is he's been coachable. He's bought into getting better, and he's a pretty good listener. He's got confidence through the roof. But don't get me wrong, I love having him out there because of his ability to score. But for the way we play and what's required at that position, he's still learning on the expectations that we have for him. But he's doing a nice job thus far.
Was Saturday the best you've seen Terrell, especially offensively?
Oh, for sure. I peeked down at the bench one time when he went around one of his defenders on a play that we used to run for him a lot last year, and we haven't ran it one time this year because of his inability to go around his defender, and so we kind of put it on the back burner, and they were all smiles, like, oh, wow, we haven't seen that all season long. And, he looked great. He hasn't missed a practice in, I think, 10 days. And that's a first for him since he sustained the injury in the fall. And his teammates are happy for him. He's handled it well. He's really handled it well considering how nagging of an injury it has been for him. And his productivity obviously is not what he expected or we expected, but he stuck with it, and he played in some games that a lot of guys probably wouldn't have, just to try to help the team. And kind of showed a warrior mentality that way, even though, he knew that his numbers probably weren't going to be great. He knew that because of our injury situation, we needed him on the court. He was better than the other alternatives. And so I'm proud of him for that. And hopefully he'll just continue to stay healthy. And I think we'll see more of the Terrell Brown of last year, or even better going forward.
Looking at Utah Valley, I think quite a bit different from last season. In terms of just their player personnel, what have you noticed about them the last few weeks as they've gotten going in WAC play?
They got two guards out front, the one returnee and the one kid that was actually recruited by the previous staff and was sitting out last year that I'm familiar with because he's a Texas kid and he played at Oklahoma State. And they just got team speed. They got great speed out front, playmaking ability. They basically play 2-point combo guards together. Neither one of them are very big, but they can change the game in a hurry with their speed and their ability to get in the paint and break the defense down. And then they've added a couple shooters on the perimeter as well. And surprisingly, from what I've seen so far, Coach Madsen certainly has his own flavor of what he's trying to run, but there's some remnants of what Coach Pope ran as well in terms of scheme. I think he was smart enough to realize that he ran really good stuff, and a lot of the returnees were comfortable with it and they had success with it. So he's stuck with some basic tenets, especially on offense, that gave a lot of people problems. So I thought that was a smart move, at least outside looking in on his part. It's not completely mirroring that style, but certainly it has some traits of how they used to play. But it starts out front with those guards, and then the white kid, number 0, is back, who's one of the best athletes in the league and can create havoc. And I'm sure they're excited to be back home. They're coming off a road game where they didn't play very well, and I'm sure they're looking forward to having some home cooking this week.
Coach, before the game on Saturday, Kansas City's coach said that you guys were one of the most physical teams that they had faced all year. Would you agree and say that you guys are the most physical team in the WAC?
I don't think he would have said that after the game. We didn't play that physical in the game. It's going to be a tough film session today for our guys in this room later. I think they probably know what's coming. We had 3 offensive rebounds. I haven't taken the time to go back and look, but I'm pretty darn sure that we've never had a game, and I don't know how many games I've coached here, where we had less than 3 offensive rebounds. And that's just ridiculous. And it's something that we've hung our hat on since we've arrived. It's something that is just a basic necessity in our program, and it goes all the way around, and something we preach every day. And for us to come out and not be aggressive on the backboards is disappointing. And that'll be something that'll be talked about ad nauseum today and tomorrow and Tuesday and Wednesday and prior to this road trip, because it showed a chink in our armor, you know, and we just can't afford to play like that, and it's not who we are. And I was just shocked, you know. At halftime, I was looking at the numbers, and I may have said this post game, and you know, I was disappointed we had one offensive rebound. And then I'm like, oh, we only missed 5 shots, you know, which I couldn't believe. But so that made sense. But the second half, we missed plenty of shots, and we only got 2. So we didn't play as physical. We didn't defend as well. Our ball screen coverage had been progressing nicely, and we just weren't as physical at the point of attack. Our guards weren't getting into the ball. Our bigs weren't in the right position to start, and it was disappointing, and it's something that we need to shore up quickly.
I guess notice of allegations against Coach Barker. Do you have any comment on that?
I don't have any comment at this time. It's an ongoing process.
Okay. And just, I guess when you brought him here, I'm sure had to know everything. But what was kind of the thought process in terms of just?
And just like I said, I don't have any comments other than what Mario has talked to the media about. It's an ongoing process.
Okay.
Thanks.